Morning. We are in August of 2024 and we're seeing what has been pushed in Ireland. Scotland introduced it. England are now acting on it. You have the arrival of the arrests being made of people who are saying things, all right? Who saying things that are deemed to be hateful or whatever the case is, right? They tried it in Scotland and thousands of people reported the Prime Minister, I think you call him, Hamzat Yousaf, for his own hate speech when he was saying that Scotland was too white. That fell apart. He then resigned, or was strongly encouraged to leave, whatever the case is. You now have Keir Starmer in as the Prime Minister of England, who is clearly pushing and allowing and accommodating, if not encouraging, a two-tier justice system in England. So you have people in England now that are being arrested and locked up for posts they've made online. So for words that they've said, thoughts that they had that they put into writing and they put out online, right? You've seen the same thing in Ireland with Helen McEntee and the rest of them who are strongly pushing the hate speech laws. I'm not sure if that, they'll probably try and just railroad that in. And where will that go? That will potentially end up with thousands and thousands of people being arrested, court systems being blocked up, people being put into jail, and because of the backlog of court cases that will be pending from that, people could be in jail for a long, long time before they ever get their cases reheard, right? Or if there's ever an appeal to be heard, right? So you also have Simon Harris, who's basically getting into a fist fight, figuratively, right, with Elon Musk about Twitter. You have the same thing in England. But why Twitter? It wasn't so long ago that Twitter was harmless, considered harmless by politicians. There was no declaration of agitation towards Twitter. So why now? Well, Elon Musk bought Twitter, and whatever you think of him, you go on what he's saying and what he's done, right? He has said that he bought Twitter to allow for free speech, for freedom of expression, for free sharing of thoughts and ideas. He bought Twitter. He freed up whatever algorithms there was that kind of funneled one perspective or certain perspectives into the trash can of internet thought sharing, right? And now you have Western governments coming out against him for giving people a voice, essentially. And they will say, well, look, those opinions are full of hate and all that. Well, of course they'd say that, because they hate those opinions themselves, because they're counter to what they want to pursue. That's perfectly natural. No, it's perfectly normal. And it is a rotten, rotten side of human behaviour, okay, to want to shut down, destroy, minimise and obliterate opposing perspectives, right? So you now have people, as I said, that are going to jail in England over thoughts that they've had, that they put into words and they've pushed out into the ether, right? And along with that, then, to kind of marry up a couple of things, you see the runner for Ireland, Rashida, and she's been glorified and pushed out there, and obviously she's a highly talented athlete, and off you go, fair play to her. She's of Nigerian descent, right? So she's a Nigerian person who's living in Ireland. And you see these accounts constantly push going, this is what real Ireland is. These are traps. All of these things are traps. So they're there to trigger an emotional reaction in Irish people. And because you can react in real time, you pour your emotions into what you're saying and you throw up something that more than likely will be used against you if these hate speech laws come in and are enacted on force, which you're seeing in England. Okay? So don't bother with that. Well, do if you want, like off you go, but I see these things as a trap and a potential way of ensnaring a load of people into endless court cases and ultimately probably the loss of your freedom for thoughts that you've had. Okay, and that's where we are, and I suppose that's where we're at, and this is the main point of what I want to say. When you have a child, and when you're with children, you want to encourage them to gain a bit of self-esteem and a bit of confidence, and to be able to go and in a shop, go up and pay for something, ask for your change, get your change, say thank you, ask questions if need be. In school, you'd encourage them to put their hands up, law of Suus, and ask a couple of questions if needs be, if they don't understand it, or ideally to share their own perspectives on things. So we encourage that in children. A lot of us do anyway. But then when we're adults, we come to accept the idea that if you say something that someone really, really doesn't like or disagree with, you can go to jail over it. So the beautiful thing about human beings is that whatever you're taking other animals, right? But look at humans, because they show the most evidence for this, largely, right? Or maybe not largely anymore, but whatever the case is, we show an ability of self-reflexivity, the ability to reflect on our experience in the world. So I'm looking at a ditch now, and I'm looking at the different hues of green, and I've an opinion on that, and it brings up memories, or it brings up ideas, or it brings up an experience for me, my relationship with the ditch, with the greens, with the natural world. And I can think on that, and I can go back through my years and think of memories I have, think of thoughts that I had, and think of former experiences that I'm bringing into the present, right? So our present is coloured by our past, and it's also largely oriented towards the future, what I will do now. So where I am now and what I would like to do in the future. But back to thinking. So we have an amazing ability to think back on ourselves, to reflect on ourselves and the world around us. And we're burdened with this. There's no getting away from that. You can shut it down totally, but I think that leads to illnesses. That leads to being unwell. That leads to dis-ease. You're off-center with yourself. You're not being honest and truthful with yourself. If you're not allowing that sort of self-reflection, and you're not voicing it in some way. You're not articulating what you feel, what your experience in the world is. And we're at the point now, in most Western countries, where that simple, naturally occurring process of reflecting on our experience and voicing, putting into words what our experience of life is and the world around us, will land you in jail. It's almost like you find a way of criminalizing a naturally occurring act in human beings. It's essentially human nature to do this. You can't stop it. Sit down and try and stop your thoughts. Try and stop yourself from having an experience based on your senses, based on your inner world. Try and stop that. You can't. You can kind of delay it or silence it to a large degree in yourself, but you can't stop it totally. It's an instinct, a drive in us to reflect on the world around us. And now that very process can land you in jail. So I would just like people to think on that. How many thoughts do you have throughout the day? And be honest with yourself. You don't have to share this with anyone. How many thoughts do you have throughout the day that, based on the hate standards, all that sort of stuff, protect the classes, all that kind of thing? How many thoughts do you have during the day that could potentially land you in jail? Because thoughts are thoughts. You're not what you think, largely. Descartes thing, I think, therefore I am. But you're not what you think. You are what you do. Okay, which can be coloured by what you think. But either way, how many thoughts do you have during the day that you would like to share with people that could land you in jail? And are you okay with that?